Good morning. Today is the 16th day of Tammuz, the 5th of July. How was your 4th of July? You didn't have one. Too bad. Okay, anyway. So we said that the Tzemach Tzedek asked his grandfather this question: how can you say that on Shabbos there's no biru? So what happens to the negative in the food? So there must be a biru. And he answered, שזה אינו, כי בשבת נפרד הטוב שבנוגה מן הרע שבנוגה מערב שבת ועולה למעלה. Right, so from Erev Shabbat, from Friday, when you can bring Shabbos in, okay, then there's a separation in all the worlds, so that the husk of Noga, the intermediate klipa, is separated between the good and evil in it.
So
and we said that
explains why the Elimelech of Mishans and others do not do any work at all.
No, but that it says, כל העושה מלאכה בערבי שבתות, אינו רואה סימן ברכה לעולם. That you can't see any success in it. But that kind of runs against what we said yesterday, that the utility, everything is useful. But it's not melacha. Meaning, for something to be useful, it's useful for Shabbos, it's useful for the holiness. But not necessarily to make... it's not parnasa. אלא שזה נעשה בפנימיות... So this we didn't read yesterday. אלא שזה נעשה בפנימיות הכוח שבמאכל, ולפיכך אין ניכר מבחוץ לאין הרואה. But this whole separation between the good and the evil happens in the inner aspect of the food, and that's why you can't see it externally. ולכן הנה בשבת בורר אסור, והאכילה דשבת היא המשכת אור חדש של למעלה מלמות. So we said that during the weekdays, you're selecting, you're refining. But on Shabbos, it's a new food, as it were. It's a new light that's coming down from the eating. Because the purpose of the eating is not the refinement of the physical food. The purpose of the eating is to draw down new light into the world. So it's also true that whatever you want to do, whether you want to refine or whether you want to bring new light down, you have to do something. The person still needed. It's not when new light needs to come down, so Hashem just brings it down. Also, it requires an act. Usually these acts are what? Mitzvot. When I put on tefillin, it's not a biru. It's a yichud. So what am I doing? I'm bringing down new light. There's no biru in tefillin. It's mevurar already. It's already refined. So when
doing a mitzvah, why do you call that bringing down new light?
Because I'm connecting to Hashem.
You're bringing down new
also,
light.
when I blow the shofar, so the new light comes down. Every mitzvah brings down light from above. But the act of refinement that we do, that's b'chol derachecha, your ways, da'ehu, you should know Hashem, so that's what causes a refinement in the world. So in the middle of the week, the food that you're eating is not a mitzvah. So you're just refining the physical world. Your body is like the mechanism that is refining the physical world, elevating the sparks. But on Shabbat, it's a mitzvah to eat. That's like achilat kohanim. It's not achilat mizbeach. Achilat mizbeach, like what we started with, the altar eating, that is the elevation of the sparks. That's a refinement. But when the Kohen eats, he's drawing down mechila, he's drawing down the light from Hashem to the owner of the korban. Achilat kohanim mechaperet. He draws down the kapara. והנה גם לאכילת השבת, שהמשכת אור חדש, צריך להיות מקודם עבודת התפילה. But in order to be able to draw down this light, you also have to pray. ואדרבה, עוד ויותר מכמו בששת מהחול. לכן תפילת השבת צריכה להיות באריכות יתרה. So he says the davening on Shabbos is for a different purpose. What's the purpose? The purpose is so that you can draw down the light later when you eat. And for that, you need preparation. The preparation is davening. And because of that, because now you're drawing down greater light, and he says here, chaser is a pratim shenemu binyan zeh. It says that the Rebbe explained this in further length. Why do you need more davening? But what are you actually preparing with the mitzvah? It says like a preparation. The whole davening is a preparation for bringing down new light. What is it like? It's like whenever you go to do a mitzvah, but there's always preparation. Right? But here it's a very special mitzvah. Why? Because it's happening, first of all, on Shabbos. There's not very many mitzvahs. Right? What can you do? Can't put food on. You learn. You learn, you sleep. What do you do? But you eat. So you need more preparation. It's greater light. Okay? וזהו מה שאומרים בשלוש סעודות בשבת, עתיקה קדישה אתן נסדה בהדה, או בהדה. That's why we before we say Kiddush on Shabbos, we add that a Tika Kadisha is coming to eat with us. Who's a Tika Kadisha? לבחינת עתיקה קדישה הוא אור חדש שלמעלה מהעולמות. עתיקה קדישה is the highest part of the crown. It's the mamash the radla. There's a Tika and a Tika Kadisha. Radla, we said that the crown usually has Atik and Arich. That's a simple observation the Chasidus always uses. Because Chasidus tends to simplify because all the details are not so important when you think about it conceptually. So it's just as Atik and Arich, which are Ta'anug and Ratzon. Right? Atik is the Ta'anug and Arich is the Ratzon. But Atik itself is divided in the Zohar into two. They're called a Tika Kadisha and a Tika. So Atik Yomin is the general name of both of the parts together. But more specifically, they're called a Tika Kadisha and a Tika. So a Tika Kadisha is even more removed than a Tika. A Tika Kadisha is like saying that this is completely beyond. Because it's also Kadosh. It's like also removed in terms of its holiness. So that in other traditions of Kabbalah, so it's not from the Yari, but this was the one passed through mostly through Europe, but it doesn't. Everybody agrees that it's called this. It's called Reisha de lo yada velo itida, Radla, the unknowable head. So Atika Kadisha is like the unknowable head. בעניין בזה, דאם היות שגם בששת ימי החול יש המשכת עתיקה קדישה שהוא המשכת התענוג, כמו שכתוב בכל יום, here he's just simplifying again, he's just saying Atika is the ta'anug. So he says, like in the 6 days of the week, there's also pleasure in the food. כמו שכתוב בכל יום מששת ימי בראשית, וירא אלוקים כי טוב. לבד מיום שני שהיא בחינת מחלוקת, וגם ביום שני שלא נאמר בו כי טוב, הרי נכפל ביום שלישי בית פעמים כי טוב לגמור מלאכת יום השני. So he says, how do we see that there was pleasure in all the days of the week, in the weekdays? Because Hashem said that it's good. He saw what he did, and he said it was good, so there was pleasure from it. He says, even on the second day, when there wasn't, he didn't say it explicitly because it wasn't, the work of the water was not finished, so it was finished on the third day. So then he said it's good twice. מכל מקום, אין זה דומה להמשכת התענוג שבשבת. But still, it's not the same type of pleasure. Because in the 6 days of the week, now this is a very important definition in Chassidus. There's ta'anug murkav and ta'anug pashut. The ta'anug pashut means that the pleasure is ideal. It's pristine. It's not coming from something. Ta'anug murkav, that it's complex or there's another word. What do you say when you tirkovet? How do you say tirkovet in chemistry? There's a mixture. There's a mixture, right? Tirkovet is a mixture. And I remember the word. There's composite pleasure. Composite pleasure means that the pleasure is attached to something. It's not pure pleasure. It's not what we said is called the sublime. It's attached to something. So this type of pleasure, you can only get you get on the weekdays. But when the pleasure is in and of itself, it's sublime. There's nothing there. It's not attached to anything. It's just like a person. The word that people use today, whether they understand or don't understand it, but the word they use is nirvana. And it's correct. It means that they're like basking in the light of God. So that is what you get on Shabbos. V'chalalut, and the 6 days of the week, hu mulkav b'chokhmah. The pleasure is composite with wisdom. Even though chokhmah is like ayin, it's like it's like nothingness, it's a sense of bittul, of selflessness. Still, it is one of the sfirot. It is one of the manifestations of Hashem's light. So it is a reality. So that means that there must be something other than the pleasure that you're experiencing during the weekdays. So the pleasure is coming in a vessel. It's enclosed in a vessel. Which vessel? Wisdom. What does he mean? Pleasure normally is reisha de'ayin. It's called reisha de'ayin, using this alternate terminology from Europe. So it's called the head of nothingness. How do you reach a state of nothingness? That's bittul. That's chokhmah. What he's saying is you can't have pleasure if you don't have chokhmah. You have to have a sense of self-nullification, and then you can feel the pleasure. So, for instance, you're eating ice cream, right? So, why does the ice cream taste good? So what? But what if you're like not in the mood for something, like your teeth hurt or whatever? So you can't nullify to the taste. And so the taste depends on whether you're able to be a vessel, a pure vessel for the thing that you're ingesting.
How can you have bittul and chokhmah? Chokhmah is all ideas that you know and you understand. And bittul means I don't know nothing.
Yeah. So, first of all, we'll accept that bittul is the inner experience of chokhmah. The meaning is that what's the difference between knowledge, when you say you know something, you just said, used knowledge. Knowledge is dat. That's you. That's the I. That's the feeling of self. Dat is the feeling of self. Okay. Chokhmah is light that comes from above, meaning not knowledge, but rather wisdom that permeates from above. How does it permeate? What does it need to permeate? It needs to get through my thick sense of self. Otherwise, I'm just dealing with consciousness. I'm just dealing with what I have. But chokhmah is the opening of myself up to the light that comes from above. So always, whenever you want to say, there's something that he says right away in the second chapter of Tanya, that whenever the light of the infinite dwells in these worlds, it first enters through wisdom. Remember, this is the beginning of the Tanya. You repeat it then 2 or 3 times later. Again, that the Maggid taught this. This was one of the initial teachings of Chasidus. Like, how do you take this whole Kabbalistic structure, and now you tell the person, so what do you need to do? Okay, it's very nice. There's all these very complex, intricate details about how the world functions. Okay, what do I need to do? So one of the first things the Maggid would tell somebody is, you have to be a chacham. Pikeach. How do you become a chacham? You have to have. So the person says, okay, what is it? Learning is that. To have chokhmah means to be nullified to above. I'm open to receiving wisdom from above. Meaning that when I'm learning, even though I'm learning the same book, if it's that, I feel that it's me learning the book. But if I'm learning with chokhmah, I feel that the book is teaching me. And I'm open to it. I'm not trying to force my knowledge on the book. I'm not trying to understand the book even. I'm letting the book teach me, meaning that I'm having a chavrusa with Hashem. I'm learning from Hashem through this vehicle that He gave us. But to work, I have to have wisdom. And what is a chacham? Alomed mikol adam. That he's open to learning from everywhere. He's porous. He's not closed. That was one of the first teachings of the Maggid, in the Maggid's base measures that they taught someone. There's learning and there's learning. There's learning where you're building yourself. You're making yourself more and more important. because you know more and more. And there's wisdom, and that's a different type of learning, where you are the student in front of the teacher, and all you do is you accept. You let everything enter into you. So this type of tanug still requires the self-nullification of wisdom in order to be experienced. ולכן כתיב בשם אלוקים, כמו שכתוב, וירא אלוקים כי טוב. That's why the whole account of creation, where we said that God got pleasure during the weekdays, is all with the name Elokim. ול"ב פעמים אלוקים נאמר במעשה בראשית. There's 32 instances of the name Elokim in the account of creation. שהוא עניין צמצומים, and these are all contractions, they are all limiting. Because it's not, by contraction here we mean that it's composite. The pleasure is coming on top of some vehicle. להמשכת התענוג במוח הסתימה, ומחוכמה נמשך לבינה על ידי ל"ב נתיבות חוכמה שהם צמצומים, ומבינה נמשך לזה על ידי נון שערי בינה שהם צמצומים, ומזה נמשך למלכות על ידי צמצומים. In other words, all the way down, it's a lot of composite action. Everything is entering into something else and riding on it. But then, ונמצא שבששת ימי החול התענוג מצומצם. מה שאין כן בשבת, בנן שבס, תכתיב ויכל אלוקים ביום השביעי. There it says, ויכל אלוקים. What does it mean? That Elokim is finished on the seventh day. Elokim is tzimtzum. Elokim, like we just said, is a tzimtzum. It's a gvura. It's a name of gvura. היינו שכלו הצמצומים דשם אלוקים. So that we're finished with the Elokim. אזי נמשך ומתגלה עצמות התענוג. So now what do you get? You get the etzim, you get the essence, the pleasure in and of itself, not in a composite form. It's not traveling on anything. It's not composite with anything. It's just the pleasure itself. ואינו בא במורכב בחוכמה. So it's not coming on the vehicle of wisdom. Again, you don't have to nullify yourself on Shabbos in order to feel the pleasure. Say it another way. That on Shabbos, you can get the thing in and of itself. Usually, the pleasure that you get is only from the ta'arim, the adjectives, the predicates that come out of the object. That's how you say it in philosophy. I don't know how to say it in human speech. It means, now let's take the ice cream again. I enjoy the cold, I enjoy the taste. I don't enjoy the ice cream itself. What I'm enjoying is the expressions of the ice cream. But on Shabbos, I'm enjoying the ice cream itself, without any connection to the expressions. That's why they say like that on Shabbos the food tastes different. It's like a way of trying to say, some Rebbe said this at some point, I don't know who. And what they meant to say is that on Shabbos you come into contact with the etzim itself, with the thing in and of itself. You're enjoying the thing in and of itself, not its expressions, not the way that, so theoretically on Shabbos it doesn't matter if the ice cream is sweet, doesn't matter if it's cold, doesn't matter anything. You're enjoying the thing in and of itself. It's az titanag al Hashem, on Havaya himself. It's not just the expressions of Hashem. Elokim is like the expressions. היינו שהתענוג אינו מתעצם עם החוכמה. Sorry, I skipped. וכאשר המשכת התענוג, I skipped one more. אלא באופן לפנימיות אבא פנימיות עתיק. It says that you get into the pneumius of things, and that is pneumius atik, that's like a Tika Kadisha itself. It's the essence in and of itself of the godliness. וכאשר המשכת התענוג, I'll give you an example. When Hashem gave the Torah, so what were they impressed by? By the words, I am Hashem your God? Or were they impressed by the fact that Hashem said this? Obviously. Because they couldn't even hear the words. Because it was so powerful. Here you are having a face-to-face meeting, whatever that means, with Hashem. So he said this, he said that. What did they say to him? Daber al daber itanu, yadaber Moshe itanu. They didn't want him to speak to them. Why? Because they said the experience of the essence of Hashem is too great. We can't handle it. So just give us the words. Meaning, Hashem offered to give the entire, the experience of Him. And He started that way, but then He said it's too much. So that became ingrained in them, became ingrained in us, that there are positive commandments and negative commandments, prohibitive and prescriptive. Anochi v'lo yeh. They're the shorish, they're the roots of the entire Torah. But the rest of the Torah we didn't hear from Hashem. We heard it through Moshe. So what are we missing? We're missing the essence of the thing itself. If you do that, then everybody hears you going. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow.
Is it,